Well, the Bruins have yet another portal target they can get for a quarterback. Who is it? Well, let's talk about it. Locked On UCLA. Glad you could join us.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, it's Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, your diehard UCLA fan and D1 play-by-play broadcaster. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On UCLA. Thanks for making your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and this episode is brought to you by Sling TV. And just know that Sling's got something for everybody throughout college football coverage, maybe even to college basketball. Massive lineup of games. You can always catch the games you want. Just check out Sling TV to see the games they have all season long. Sling, the TV you love for a price you'll love. Try it today. Just like the Bruins should try, and I mean try, to go get, who am I going to say right now? Grayson McCall. Why does that name ring a bell? Well, McCall just entered the transfer portal. This is a guy who UCLA should try and get. I'm adding this on to the likes of whom UCLA should go on to and try and find the portal, because this is a guy from Coastal Carolina who is a good product. And funny enough, who does UCLA have next year in their 2023 football schedule? Well, it might be one Coastal Carolina. And wouldn't it be something? Wouldn't it be something if they had to go and play Coastal Carolina at home September 2nd of next year and then find themselves using their former starting quarterback as their new man? What makes Grayson McCall so great? Well, McCall is a guy who's played 3 years at Coastal Carolina. His head coach, Jamie Chadwell, went and became the head coach at Liberty when Hugh Freeze went and got the head coaching gig at Auburn. So their head coach bounced for Liberty. So there's already one connection where he could go follow his coach and go over to Liberty, or he can move up to the Power 5 ranks, which he's probably proven that he could go do. Remember, UCLA's already got a bevy of targets, whether it's high school with Dante Moore, whether it's the portal from the likes of DJ. You can go get Devin Leary. There's just different options UCLA can use, including internally in terms of QBs who the Bruins can go get. So Grayson McCall, who over his last 3 years in 2020, 21, and 22, the Chanticleers have a record of 31 and 6. 31 and 6 from the 2020 season, 21 and 22. What has McCall done during that time? Each year, he has been the Sun Belt Player of the Year. Every single time he's played, he's been the conference's Player of the Year. That says something, and he's got 2 years of eligibility left still because of the COVID season, and he will be one of those last players, if you remember, to be one of those COVID players, because his freshman year was during the COVID season in 2020. So finally, as we slowly ease out of the COVID era in terms of eligibility-wise, you will have Grayson McCall, who sits there and will be a fantastic option for UCLA to hit in the portal. Let's get to those numbers. For McCall this year, in 10 games played, he missed 3 weeks, 2 games, due to a foot injury he sustained, I believe, in their game against App State. I could be mistaken there, but I might be forgetting off the top of my head. But he sustained an injury near the end of the season, a team where they started 6-0 for the third straight season with him, quote unquote, under center, although that's not the case anymore. And he was the guy that's thrown for 2,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, 69% completion percentage, only 2 picks, 183 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns that leads his team. Mind you, those numbers are without him playing in 2 games that they did play, and then they had the game canceled against Virginia in the aftermath of their heartbreak against the Cavaliers. So there's 3 games he could have or would have missed in terms of getting numbers. He hasn't passed for 3,000 yards yet in his career, although, mind you, he's thrown for 2,600. Even though he's in the portal, he's supposed to play in the bowl game for Coastal Carolina, and he did return from injury to play in the Sun Belt Conference title game against Troy, which Coastal Carolina lost 45-26. But in his first game back in nearly a month, when he was supposed to miss 3 to 6 weeks, missing closer to the minimum than the maximum when it came to his foot injury, he had 319 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, an interception, and I believe a rushing score to go along with it. So he can do a little bit of everything. For a quarterback who hasn't really slung the football around all a game. He hasn't thrown for more than 30 passes in a game, only 6 times in his 34 career appearances. So he has missed a couple of times here and there this year due to a little nagging injury in that foot, was able to get through it. And then Grayson McCall, 2 years of eligibility, 3-time conference player of the year. CCU, Coastal Carolina, record for total touchdowns, 78 career touchdown passes, which is the Coastal Carolina record career-wise, and only 8 interceptions in 3 years. So the completion percentage mirrors what DTR's done. Kind of the passing yardage too, mind you. Yeah, the likes of McCall, who has been injured this year, so he would have over 3,000 yards passing if he'd played. And then just the ability to complete it at a high clip, have the ability to throw all around for touchdowns without turning it over. And in 2021, last year, he set the FBS passing efficiency record, breaking Mac Jones' record from the year before with a clip of 207.6. That was last season. He broke the passer efficient rating with 207.6, the FBS record all time, breaking one that was just set. So that's a guy who is efficient, takes care of the football, and is a great option. And very well for UCLA, is a very gettable guy. He could maybe come to the West Coast, have that vibe. You see the vibe behind me here in Locked On UCLA with the backdrop. This is a guy who UCLA should key on with Grayson McCall, a proven winner, 31-6, conference player of the year. And generally, teams don't want to give a guy so many, like MVP awards. You can go debate like the NBA, different players. Sometimes you can just be great. And because you've won it once, if not twice already, they're not going to want to give it to you again. But he was so good that they've given it to him 3 times, the only player ever in Sun Belt history to have 3 Conference Player of the Year awards in his career, every season he's played from 2020 to 2022. That is remarkable. Remember, his coach is at Liberty, has just bolted over there, so he can go to Liberty, go follow his head coach, or Chip Kelly can say, hey, this is a guy we want. Maybe we don't want to get in the arms race for Dante Moore with a guy who's already committed somewhere else. Battle and try and throw the kitchen sink all at DJ Uiagalelei. Maybe find an NC State transfer in Devin Leary. But this guy has 2 years of eligibility and very well is a gettable guy for UCLA. Grayson McCall, remember the name, 3-year starter, still with 2 years left of eligibility as a player who is dynamic, would probably fit well in UCLA's offense, and maybe isn't one who's going to sling it around all too often. But if UCLA can get that running game going, even with the departure of Charbonnet, with the guys they have waiting in the wings, this could very well be the guy that they get for a year or two. And still, if Justin Martin decides not to transfer, if they go get a portal guy, could very well get Justin Martin prepped and ready for his final year or two into his Bruins career. Either way, Grayson McCall is a guy UCLA should go look at in terms of, I've even looked at the numbers and I'm just like, wow, boom, this is a guy. Of course, DJ probably tops the list, but this guy could be 1B or 2 in terms of what you want to get in terms of portal quarterbacks. This is a guy UCLA should go after. No doubts about it. In the meantime, as we transition into basketball, should we have doubts about the likes of Tyger Campbell and his shooting woes to begin? As we flip back to the hardwood, because McCall, that's a get. And Tyger Campbell, he's been getting buckets this year, but should we be worried about his shooting percentage? And it's at an alarming rate, almost as low as his freshman year, kind of, sort of. And should we be alarmed at how he's been playing? More than higher numbers, yes. Should we be alarmed at the numbers? I'm going to tell you about those when we tell you first about Omaha Steaks. Just know Omaha Steaks, they've got that wonderful deal. Yeah, look at that. They've got a insane cut price site-wide. Omaha Steaks has cut prices 50% to help make you the gift-giving hero you wanted to be. Trust me, I've only bought one gift so far for the holiday season, and I am way behind when it comes to gift giving for the likes of my fam. So, hey, Omaha Steaks seems like the way to go. Just know that Omaha Steaks, they put together a delicious selection of various gift packages for shopping for the ones that you want nice and easy. Go to omahasteaks.com. Take advantage of 50% off site-wide. Plus, use the code Locked On at checkout to get an additional $40 off your order. Again, you can get $40 off your order with the 50% site-wide code of Locked On. Don't wait. Go to Omaha Steaks today. Don't wait for the rush. Locked On, the checkout code. You can get 50% off site-wide with the Locked On code at checkout. That gets you an extra $40 off your order. Just know that minimum order may be required. It's juicy. I'm hungry. I'm starving. Yeah, it says $30 off. Yeah, in that corner. No, they bumped it up to $40. You see this little code if you're watching on YouTube? It's $40. They're bumping it up. We're going crazy with Omaha Steaks. As we continue to move on here with Locked On UCLA, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer already talked football. We'll get back to football and we'll analyze which is the best option at the end of the show. We'll analyze which of the transfer QBs is a certifiable option for UCLA, whether it be Dante Moore as a high school kid or the three transfer portal options I've already analyzed throughout the last week or so. But right now, we're focusing on basketball. UCLA, a grand week. They've got Maryland, and then they've got Kentucky on the road and on a neutral site. And mind you, they might have to travel even more for the neutral site game up to New York, wherever it is, in Madison Square against Kentucky. Not exactly out in Rupp Arena, but they're going to Madison Square with all the lights on them on this upcoming Saturday. The Bruins, as Mick Cronin has been leaning so much on Tyger Campbell to pick up the scoring slack. The Bruins, they lost Johnny Juzang, no Jules Bernard, Cody Riley, and I know Tyger Campbell's not big, but these are guys UCLA has to replace from a Final Four team from 2 seasons ago, a team that had high expectations last year and was one maybe Tyger Campbell accidental turnover or slip away, not exactly blaming it on him, but at the end of the game when they had a lead against North Carolina from potentially being in the Elite Eight, where they would have played none other than St. Peter's, a 15 seed, and could have easily had a gift to play Duke in the Final Four. Either way, UCLA was Sweet 16 bound, Final Four bound, and as red hot as one could have been at the end of the 1920 season during Tyger Campbell's freshman year. What is so important about Campbell's freshman year? Well, as we've watched him grow in games played, he's started. In every game he's played in his career, he's been a starter for Mick Cronin. In his freshman year, he averaged 30 minutes a game, 35% from the field, 26% from three, with a 67% free throw percentage, about 8 points per game, 5 assists per game when it came down to 56 turnovers in 31 appearances. Could have had a couple more with the tournament on the way. Either way, Campbell has picked up his numbers in terms of usage each and every year, taking more shots from his freshman to sophomore year, jumping and scoring from 8 points per game to 10 points per game. And then his shooting percentage vaulted from 35% as a freshman to 42% as a sophomore. And his three-point percentage didn't get much better as a sophomore, but the assist numbers went up. And with playing an extra game, the turnover numbers went up a little bit as he got those hands in the passing lanes as well. Then you go from sophomore to junior year, scoring ticks up about 1.5 per game, takes even more shots, shooting percentage from 42% to 44%. His three-point shooting percentage jumped from 25 to 41, a career best, 83% from the line, and his career high at the time, 12 points per game, and he cut down on turnovers by 15 in a season where he played more games, arguably more minutes, a little bit less minutes actually, but the same amount of minutes per game, and had less turnovers during the season. Now you come back to his senior year where Mick Cronin is asking Tyger Campbell, the leader, the longtime general, as he wants him to pick up the scoring slack. Campbell this year, in 10 games already, where the Bruins are 8-2, has 30 minutes per game, a similar number so far because the Bruins have blown out everybody at home, so he hasn't had to play the bulk of the minutes during those blowouts, but similar minutes to what he played during his freshman year. What has he done? Well, he averages 13 points per game, a career high, and is on pace to set his career high for most points in a season and most points per game in a season average for him. But one, with 20 turnovers in 10 games already, Tyger is on pace to set a career high in turnovers in an individual season, despite at this moment playing less minutes than he normally does when UCLA plays the tougher competition. Like they'll play Maryland, they'll play Kentucky, and then they're going to come up and go into Pac 12 play again, when you would assume, as much as Mick Cronin wants to keep him off the floor in terms of rest and making sure he's fresh at the end of games, those minutes will tick up into the 32, 33, 34 minutes per game average, as it probably and usually will do, unless Mick Cronin tries hard not to do. So, one, the turnovers slightly up, but mind you, they are up, which is what was the key problem in that Illinois loss when UCLA was up big in that second half against the Fighting Illini. And then another thing is, while he's averaging 13 points per game, he's taking a career high 13 shots per game. So he's scoring more points, but doing it even more inefficiently than he's done in his entire career. Sophomore and junior year, he shot over 43% just about and 44% with good 3-point shooting numbers. And so far this season, 32% is not something to slouch at in terms of a 3-point shooting percentage. But from the field, he's shooting 38%. Last couple of games, he's a combined 7 of 25 against Oregon and Denver in a combined 60 minutes of game time and shooting 25%, just about, if I did my math correct. Something like that. More like 25%, just above that, 26% from the field. And this season, he's shooting under 40% for the first time, at least so far in his career, since his freshman year, when obviously it's a little different as a college freshman in the beginning compared to what his numbers are now. So he's being asked to do more. Mick Cronin has been very vocal. Preseason Pac-12 media days, media availability that's been posted on social media, posted from everybody else in interviews saying, hey, this is what I want him to do. I want him to be more aggressive. We're working on that. And this is a different role for Tyger Campbell from freshman year to sophomore and junior year. And now another transition into the senior year where he's already that leader, but now he wants the ball in his hands to score. And he says it's been different with the ebbs and flows trying to get Tyger Campbell to do what he needs to do. And what I'm pointing out to you is the numbers aren't showing that efficiency wise, it's working with Campbell shooting more shots. Ironically enough, Mick Cronin's team has one of the best, in his words, shooting percentages in his entire coaching career, with the Bruins amongst the top 20 in the country, with shooting over 50% in a game almost every time this season, barring that last game for UCLA that they just played, 48% against Denver. But they're shooting a pretty good clip. But Tyger Campbell he hasn't taken care of the ball. Not that it's been a crazy bad year, but Campbell against Illinois, 5 turnovers. Last couple of games had 7 turnovers, although he did have 0 against Denver. So that was a good thing to see in only 23 minutes for Campbell. And remember, for Campbell, this is a new role that he's adjusting to. And after a quick start against Sacramento State, Long Beach State, and Norfolk State, and while you might point to the competition there, 14, 18, 11, the shooting percentage has come slowly crashing down to earth. Against Bellarmine, 25%, 2 of 8. Against Oregon, 4 of 15. Denver, 3 of 10. So you wonder, is this the right way that Mick Cronin should lead Campbell? Or should he go back to what he was the last few seasons, especially freshman and sophomore year, a pass first point guard? I'm not sure that's going to work if he needs to revert back to a pass first point guard. But one wonders if UCLA can get himself not exactly in an ISO situation where we've seen him at times at the end of last year and that sophomore year. He can go take someone off the dribble or hit a clutch 3 when he needs to. But so far, if he needs to do that 10, 15 times a game, it has not panned out for Tyger Campbell. Personally, while the numbers are slightly alarming in a 10-game sample size compared to what he's done the last couple years, maybe that shooting percentage isn't what it's going to be. He doesn't need to be that one-on-one superhero where Jaime Hawkins Jr. can go in the paint. Mari Bailey has those evasive moves, evasive maneuvers where he can make spectacular shots. So maybe what UCLA needs to do in these next couple of games, Maryland and Kentucky, is put Tyger Campbell in more successful, promising situations where maybe he doesn't have to go one-on-one or take those shots. Find him in a rhythm where he does better as opposed to having him shoot 38% from the field, which would be his worst total of the season in the season since his freshman year. Remember, he's shooting 4 more shots per game on average than he did last year as a junior. Of course, you're losing a lot of shots with Juzang, a lot of shots with Jules Bernard. So someone's got to pick up the scoring slack, the shooting slack, and Bailey's come in and really figured things out after Mick Cronin just screamed at the media about how bad his team was in Las Vegas against Illinois and Baylor. So he's played a lot better. And nothing against Campbell's play, but the numbers do speak for themselves. The shooting percentages, turnover slightly up, yes, and when you're going to have the ball in your hands a lot more, that will happen to Campbell. But those are something to look out for. Those numbers, shooting percentage, efficiency, and taking care of the basketball, all for Tyger Campbell to do. And the difference, what could be a Pac-12 championship, a Final Four run to a national championship. Tyger Campbell, he's not exactly an X factor, but how he adjusts to this new role will be important. As Mick Cronin says, I want him to do all these things. I want him to score more and do more. And that will be important for him moving forward and Campbell to adjust more. And hopefully, come the turn of the new year, maybe not new Tiger, but new shooting percentage, that can change moving forward. The numbers, not exactly in his favor at the moment, but I believe he can do it. He's a veteran. Or if Mick Cronin says this is not the way, maybe put him back to a pass first point guard. Either way, Campbell's shown he can score more. We'll see if it happens to come in a more efficient clip come the rest of the calendar year. These next two games, Maryland and Kentucky, will be very telling to see if UCLA's strategy to start this 22-23 campaign is going to be effective or if they should just scrap it whole whatsoever. Just some thoughts for you here on Locked On UCLA. In the meantime, we'll go back to talking quarterbacks. I talked McCall. We'll talk about, hey, which of the four options do I think are now the best power ranked options for the portal or the high school options for UCLA? But just know, let's pause for a second. Let's pause. You got to try Built Bar. They've got new reimagined flavors, right? Cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, and coconut brownie topper. They've got the white chocolate peppermint granola because that gets you in the season as well. Candy cane brownie. They've got what makes it so more filling, insanely tasty. They've got what it takes. And if you haven't tried a Built Bar before, they're literally the best tasting protein bar ever built. 100% real chocolate, whopping 17 grams of protein. And despite all that, shockingly low in sugar and calories, only 130 overall. Sink your teeth in that first bite. I'm so hungry. I need me a protein bar right now, and it'll change your life forever. If you haven't heard my stomach growling, it's because I need to go get one of those. I'm not kidding. There'll be a time before you try the Built Bars and the time after. Got to try this. Go get 15% off your order by using the promo code LOCKEDON15. It's with the number 15. So Locked On 15, Locked On 15 to get 15% off your order at built.com. The Bruins are built for success, one would think, under Chip Kelly, right, heading into 2023. But I've spent these last few weeks diving in deep into the quarterback discussion, bringing the likes of, should UCLA bring in Dante Moore? Should UCLA bring in Grayson McCall? Should they bring in DJ Uiagalelei? Or is Devin Leary, another kind of out there option, the transfer from NC State with only 1 year with only 1 year left, is he the option to give UCLA's internal options, maybe one more, namely Justin Martin, another year to grow and develop under Chip Kelly's system, or do they go with Ethan Garbers? Well, I'm going to sit here right now, ending the Locked On UCLA podcast for today and ranking what these options are. We're probably going to shift the internal options to the side for the moment as to what UCLA can get outside of what they already have in the program, depending on with all the hype they've been trying to go with Dante Moore. Let's talk about the rest. So, in my mind, I think it's clear who number one is. It's pretty clear. It's DJ Uiagalelei. 2 years of eligibility, but if he comes to UCLA and just balls out, he's leaving to the NFL. No ifs, ands, or buts. I would assume if he goes out, if he transfers, wherever he goes, has a Heisman campaign, his draft stock will jump. Just the pure pocket, the body, the build. NFL will love him. They're gonna take him. But he does have 2 years of eligibility, so that is, I would say, still option number one. Grayson McCall, who I just mentioned throughout the beginning of the podcast, 3-year starter, Coastal Carolina, already told you his numbers, 78 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions. That's arguably chance number 1B or 2. I'm not sure what exactly, haven't checked in directly more on his NFL prospects or everything yet, but considering that, I would say you can get McCall. That's a good option. He's got 2 years of eligibility. One would think, hey, you can get a grad degree, a master's. Who knows if he can even get into UCLA with everything between all these guys that come in the portal. That's why, hey, 2 of the 3 portal commits for UCLA already are Ivy League commits. Where did Bobo come from? Duke. You got to be smart to get into UCLA. And I'm not saying anything about McCall, but just remember, these guys still have to get into the program and make sure they've got the grades heading into the master's, the post grad, whatever it is, to add on to their education. As Chip Kelly will say, books and ball. As Ed Kazarian, UCLA Hall of Famer, said, he loves it, books and ball. So McCall, does he rhymes with books and ball? Yeah, you think so. I would give him a call for McCall. Remember, 2 years of eligibility, 2 years. Arguably, that number 2 option, I would think DJ, a bigger, stronger version of not exactly DTR, but he has the rushing yards. He has what UCLA's already done these last couple of years and could fit in compared to what DTR did, get that dual threat ability. Not that McCall can't, but DJ Uiagalelei is the one who UCLA should go for first. Then, number 2, I'm going to put Grayson McCall. That's what I do. And while number 3, Dante Moore, who is already, remember, a hard commit, kind of hard commit, soft commit. We've discussed this. He's a commit to Oregon. They have to flip him. They're not recruiting him. They're trying to pull him out of the quote unquote invisible transfer portal that is high school commits committing to a school and flipping his commitment. So Dante Moore, who has a lot of love coming out of Detroit, Michigan, a 5-star quarterback, arguably the one or two best quarterbacks in the class of 23, he's number 3. And while he did post all the pics of his uniform and the UCLA official visit, going to practice games, he is committed to Oregon. So until there is something that comes out that eyes that Dante to LA is going to happen, Grayson McCall and DJ are clearly above him in terms of options and gettable options, in my opinion, as to guys who they can go get. Dante Moore, if you can get him, go get him because you get him for 4 years or 3 or however it goes. You get him and you can. But I think he's slotted there at number 3, well below DJ and McCall based on possible gettability between those guys. Number 4, it's Devin Leary. I've already mentioned his name, the NC State quarterback transfer in the transfer portal. He's a winner. He's like the NC State version, and McCall and Leary are somewhat the same guy. Not exactly. McCall's done it dynamically on a bit of a national stage. Leary maybe under the radar. Both proven winners over 3-4-year campaigns, right? Leary, I've already talked about, he has some long-time records, single-season records, breaking Phillip Rivers' record down at NC State. So that's a guy who can make something happen, but Leary only has 1 year. So Leary would be the best for UCLA if you still want Justin Morton to develop 1 year and you tell Leary, hey, we're not sure how this 23 season is going to go, but you come here, you start, help us develop a quarterback, and hopefully we can give you a chance to start all those 12, 13 games potentially. You can maybe get Leary for 1 year. So that's why he's number 4, but he's not by any means much worse than these quarterbacks. He's still very good. You want Devin Leary. He's a 4th option, and that's why I rank him. DJ clearly number 1, McCall number 2, but arguably the best option for talent and upside with 2 years of eligibility. And then Dante Moore. Talent speaks for himself, potential speaks for itself, but the question is, can you flip somebody on a commit a little before a week before signing day? Not entirely certain UCLA can do it, but there's a lot of movement. Dante to LA was trending. Maybe he can trend into UCLA and Westwood and be playing in the Rose Bowl in the Big Ten. Not entirely certain, but those are your options for UCLA. And Chip Kelly at quarterback, whether it be the portal or still class of 23 recruiting before the early signing period. Either way, go check out Locked On Sports today. Make that your second listen. Thanks for making Locked On UCLA your first listen each and every day. Thanks for your support, liking, commenting, and viewing on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It is for free. Go listen to the audio versions, whether it be Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts. It's free wherever. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer saying so long. We'll talk direct matchups with the likes of UCLA and Maryland and Kentucky throughout the week and recap those with immediate reactions. Get your hands in the air, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Go Bruins.